Better camera.
No,
All
you're good.
right.
I know, I feel like I'm not centered. All right, we're live.
All right.
All right, I'm really excited. We have Cleeton Gumbs on from the center. I'm the founder of that company, and he's a marketing strategist with us. And we just love having Cleeton on our team. We value him, and we had a great community gathering, is what we had called it, where we had a lot of people on a team together, and just to talk about what's going on. I think we all have so many emotions, and we don't know how to sift through it. And I knew that we had a great culture, and I'm like, I need to fill my soul up again. And so we brought everybody together. We had an amazing turnout, and Cleeton just said some amazing things that brought more awareness to me and just softened me even more. And so I'd like to really spend this time listening more than talking. I'll say some things here and there, but more than anything, I really want to just give even Cleeton another platform, because he just so eloquently says so much. And you, Cleeton, know a lot about my vision at the center and what we stand for. And so
Yeah.
I feel like we can really help inspire other companies and just other people to maybe improve the human experience for everybody, and figure out how to break down some walls here to where we can really get to understand each other more and love each other more. So thank
Yeah.
you, Clayton.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. And like you said, we had a really amazing meeting yesterday as a team. And I thought, first, I want to just say, how much I appreciate you for taking that time and seeing the need for that. Understanding that, we're all affected by the world around us. And if we can, have a, a firm outlook on the world and an understanding of how it affects us and how that comes into our workplace, I think, if we can work on that and get that as clear and as peaceful as possible, then we show up to work and we do amazing things. And we can then do what the mission of that company is. In our case, is to improve the human experience, is to affect lives, affect business owners in a positive way where they can go and in turn, support their families, provide opportunities for their families. So, but it all starts with just having that understanding. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
It was really amazing. And, my parents, I give all the credit to them. I think, I got a chance to have some smaller discussions after our team discussion. And, sometimes in the Black race, a lot of times we feel like we have to represent our race, as a whole, right? So sometimes there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. But my thanks goes to my parents, because I think they understood that I would be in those situations and they prepared me. So there's no pressure that I feel. I actually feel honored, because I know that there is a conversation or a view of just my people that is such a powerful and rich view, and I'm excited when I get opportunities to tell it. So
Good. Well, I'm excited to hear it. So we wanted to talk about, I think the first section is awareness, right? Like just becoming
yeah,
aware. And just to preface it, and just before this, I'd actually apologized to Cleeton, because I was like, we happened to have a conversation about diversity and inclusion about 2-3 weeks ago. And I'm pretty strong opinion in that area, because I love people. I see people. Like I don't ever want to look at just like segment based on color or things like that. I look for their
right,
inner qualities and what they have. And so that's like a huge part of my core, and honestly a huge part of the vision of the company. But as a result, I thought I was doing the right thing by not being sensitive to what the trauma was that people could be going through. And I realized that when we had this discussion 2 or 3 weeks ago, that I wasn't sensitive to that trauma and the things that happened. And so I've been made aware, and I've been softened, and I realized that love isn't enough. Like love is how it's going to happen, but
right.
we have to take action too. And so with that, Clayton, maybe just like you've opened my eyes, maybe for those that are still trying to navigate all this, maybe you can help make them aware of just things that you've had discussions with other people on, and things
Yeah.
you've experienced.
Yeah, the awareness piece is vital, and it makes so much sense that we would start there as we talk about the other aspects of how we solve for and look to improve the overall problem. But awareness is just understanding, I appreciate the statement that you make, Mia, and so many of my Caucasian friends, Asian, Indian friends, we all make the comment that I don't see color. And I understand where that comes from. It comes from a place of saying we're all human beings. We're one race. So let's not distinguish, let's not make superior or inferior another person because of the color of their skin. So I totally understand that. But I think in this awareness conversation, when you dig a little deeper, you realize that seeing color and the other aspects is where you start to uncover that trauma. So you say, I don't see color because we are human beings, but I do appreciate your difference, your culture, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what we kind of been talking a lot about, and those are some of the discussions I've been having. It's like, so, now that I see your color, I want to know more, right? I want to be aware of what your trauma is, and some of the stigmas on your people, on your nationality, right? Because even within the black race, it's not the black race, it's one race, but within blacks there's Caribbeans, there's different there's from Africa, then there's African Americans, right? So even within there's subcultures of the culture. And when you become aware, when you make yourself aware, you start to realize those nuances, and you're like, oh wow, okay, so this is why, if we have a company potluck, this is why you do this certain thing, or this is why you bring this certain food, right? Certain things can be, with certain cultures, if I've heard, don't quote me on this, but I heard like in other countries, if you do a certain thing, in America, you may approach it one way and it's like, oh, it's a gesture of friendliness. And another culture, that's a gesture of disrespect. So that awareness piece is just that. It's just having the mindset that I want to dig deeper. Like I want to know a little bit more. Like if I'm going to, especially if I'm going to work with this individual, if I'm going to, it could be whatever the situation is when I have to interact with them on a normal basis, then I want to make that great, So I take an example when I was in high school, and I had a friend, his name was Ron Kirksman, right? And, Caucasian friend. And we always sat next to each other in math class, and we would have our headphones on. We would always have do your work and listen. So I have my music playing, and I have his music playing, and literally, we sat by each other the whole school year. And one week we were just like, hey man, what kind of music you listen to? I always hear it, it seemed like you're enjoying it. And for a whole week we switched our CD players. And I listened to whatever he had. I had all his CDs, he had all my CDs. And we're like, let's just check it out, man. Let's see what it's about. And I learned about Weezer. I learned about all these Green Day. I learned about all these different bands that I had never been exposed to in my life, but I liked the music. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And it's only because we just took that time. It's just, hey, I'm sitting next to you for the whole school year. We talk about different topics. Let's just dig a little deeper. And, you started to discover those things. And now you understand, okay, my heart, in your case, in our discussion that we had a couple of weeks, your heart is in the right place. So it's not a question of whether your heart's in the right place. It's just, oh, you know what? Even though my heart's in the right place, the trauma that they're experiencing can make them interpret it the wrong way. So if I know that, then I can talk to them and say, oh, you know what? This is what I'm really feeling, but I understand that hurts, or that may come off this way to you. So, I get it, and this is what I'm doing about it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think for me, like I was thinking about, because we've experienced this with employees when they've come on, and like we were just talking about clients when they come on, if they've had bad experiences in the past, like they were coming in the door with this trauma, and I don't know why, like I've been thinking about like just processing, because I knew that I had to that people come in with trauma, like I knew that, but I think I didn't want to make it about race because I didn't want you guys to feel bad, right? So I think for me, I'm like I feel like I've been softened and learned that you guys are okay with us helping and saying, hey, we want to empathize, we want to know what you've gone through, and so I think I'm just trying to navigate that, because I realized like I was wrong in the way I felt about that.
And that's the thing, right? I think this last week has really showed us as a country that's where we are. And we talked about this in our discussion yesterday. When, as a people, when we have been voicing our concerns and our fears, and our disposition that we feel a lot of times in the country, the actual the fact that there is systemic racism happening in the country, and the fact that there is police brutality, excuse me, that's always a tongue tie for me, police brutality, more targeted towards people with my skin color. When you're yelling it from the mountaintop and you're saying it, and you don't feel like you're being heard, you literally are at a humble place where you're like, listen, whoever is my ally, whoever can lock arms with me and scream this with me, I just want to change because our lives matter. We want to have the same opportunities, and we want to have the same confidence just leaving the out of the house, right? Leaving out of your front door as everyone else has, and that's what our vulnerability has started to come, Now, I can't speak for everyone, right? There are some, just like with every situation, there are some people who are more prideful and more private, and they may not want that, but that goes back to that awareness, right? It's discovering that you don't want to be supported in this way. Well, how do you want to be supported? Sometimes they'll, most of my friends, most of my family members, they're very clear on what they need, as an individual. And I think that's just understanding that there's no one way to do it. It's just really seeking to understand that person or those individuals that you come into contact with, and then seeing how to support. And I think that's what you're doing today.
Yeah. We're all different individuals with different experiences and different backgrounds, and all that weighs into who we are as individuals, right? And people,
Yeah.
and seeking to understand that, I think, is, like you said, is really important, and that's what I'm trying to do. So.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I see Chris talk about like Black Lives Matter, and I was one of those that said all lives matter. Didn't say it, but I thought it, right? Like, I don't understand that, and I didn't. And then I started to read more, and I was like, oh, especially when the 99 and 1 sheep analogy came into play. It's like, okay, but I because of my trauma, like all this, I had trauma of not wanting to play a victim role, right? So it was so strong on making sure I wasn't a victim. So I thought that if I was more empathetic towards that, then I would make you guys a victim. I didn't want to create more of that victim mentality, and so, but I realized it's not that. It's like it's really going out, and we all need help. I actually did a live on this, right, where it's like, we're so, as humans, we want to be strong, and we don't want to ask for help. Yes. And we don't want to, and it's like, no, as humans, actually just saw a quote from on my LinkedIn, and it says, somehow we've come to equate success with not needing anyone. Many of us are willing to extend a helping hand, but we're very reluctant to reach out for help when we need it ourselves. It is as if we've divided the world into those who offer help and those who need help. The truth is, we are both. And that was from Brené Brown.
That's solid. That's solid. And that's the truth. I mean, I'll say this statement. If we could have solved it by ourselves, we would have. We would have by now, and that's the truth. And what we're seeing is, this version of America that we want is here. But it's just about nudging us in the direction, and I think what, Chris on our call yesterday talked about 2020, right? This year has really kind of put us on our heels, and we're at a position where we're like, you know what, like COVID-19 has shown us that, COVID didn't look at any color, right? It looked at the human race like, I'm gonna make.
There's a lot of symbolism we can pull,
right? So then everyone had to lock arms, like, wow, let's all protect each other. Let's socially distance so that we can stop the spread of this virus, because we all want to live, And then this situation happens with George Floyd last week, and now you start to see, wow, it's a little bit more clear because of the example of COVID-19. Like, well, there's a specific group of people who have been fighting for their lives the same way we're fighting for our lives with COVID-19. It's just in a different, it's a more of a violent, different type of conversation. So everyone's like aware, like, wait a minute, we wanted to live for COVID-19. We want these individuals to, they wouldn't feel that way. So now it's understanding, you know, because just like all of us, we have our tunnel vision lives for the most part. We have our group of friends and family members and coworkers, and it can be repetitive for the most part, right? Yeah. So there's certain things in the news feed, like if you'll go on Facebook, Instagram, like those networks only give you a certain viewpoint of things that they know that you're going to interact with. So things that are happening, like for instance, I can't honestly say I know what's happening specifically in the Middle East right now, right? I'm just being transparent on this call. I don't know that. And it's because it's not in my viewpoint. So if, to your point, to that comment about Black Lives Matters and all lives matter, where to you, you're like, yeah, I love everybody. Come on, you know, all lives matter. Yeah. In another part of the world, another part of the country, people are living this reality that no, like substantially more Black people are being killed in these scenarios. So, you know, until you get to a point where those parts meet for you, where you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. That human part of you kicks in. Yeah, that's not right. Yeah, I get why they're saying that. And this is what this awareness, and to the next point, the acknowledgement happens. It's like, you know what? It's not that I didn't care. It's just I understand, you know, as a human being, I can only take in so much information. But now that I'm met with the information, I acknowledge that here's where I am with it. And this is what, you know, I want to do. I want to learn more, right? I want to have discussions. I want to, you know, you start to now go down a path. And I think this is the path you're on. There's so many
am I doing it? Like, am I on the right path?
Yeah,
like, I'm really honestly asking that. Like, I feel like I'm shifting. Okay, this is out of alignment. This one's okay. This one's not. Like,
because now you're getting a template, you know, and this is, you know, you and I have talked a lot about your vision, about the vision to affect the human experience. And now you're starting to see like these trauma points, and some of these things are going to come into play as you delve deeper into that vision. You know, we're doing this right now with African Americans. There's going to be a version of this with Asian Americans. There's going to be a version of this with Indian Americans, right? So it's understanding that there's not a one size fits all, so to speak, message, but I'll have to segment some of my messaging as I, you know, grow this business and this organization to really help and really look to improve that human experience. Because understanding that human experience is understanding from those different perspectives, you know, and that's what we're getting to there. Of course, there's the human parts, right? So there's like the Maslow, you know, needs, right? Some of the basic, right? So we can always agree on those, right? We got to eat, you know, we want to survive, right? We want to feel safe. But then there's going to be those aspects where it's like, okay, well, here's the specifics for this group of people that we can talk to, we could talk about, you know. I know we've delved in a little bit story brand, you know, in our messaging for our website at one point. And it's understanding that what are those challenges that we're facing, and while we can make that on a business level, we can also we can niche it down a little bit and start to look at, okay, demographically, what are the challenges people are dealing with? So,
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, acknowledgement. Is there anything else you want to say on the acknowledgement side of things?
Yeah, I think that's one of the aspects. And the other thing I'll say with acknowledgement is kind of yesterday. I think, you know, you got on the call and you were vulnerable about the fact that, hey, this is what I've just discovered about what's going on. This is where I was with it. You found yourself in, you know, you identified where you were with it. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of going back to one of the key things I said yesterday, which was, you know, seeking to understand, right? When you seek to understand, you acknowledge your role in it. You say, you know what, this is where I've been. And 99% of people, they're in that place because of this tunnel thing. They have their own world. We're all human beings. We're trying to survive and provide for our families. You know, that other 1% unfortunately they're negative and they don't want to. They want to keep things the way that they are. But I'm optimistic enough to believe that everyone is. It's because of the first reason, right? The 90%, right? So you acknowledge and say, "Hey, here I am," and what can I do? How can I understand? How can I, So awareness is, the awareness piece is just saying, okay, the world is bigger than this, right? So the world's this big. There's a lot going on in this world, and then you acknowledge where you are, right? You're like, okay, you know what? Over my now that I've become aware, this is where I actually am with it. And then the next piece is the action piece. Now it's like, okay, well, what is the thing that I actually do to be a part of the solution? And that's one of the things we're doing here is, you give a platform for those who haven't been heard, right? That's what you're doing today. It's partnering with organizations that are looking to improve and be a part of the solution, right? It's, having discussions. I talked to you all about, and this is when the call got really emotional. I talked to you about the reality of me as a Black man in America. I have a 6-year-old son, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter, and should be 4 next week. And I have to sit down and prepare him for survival when he leaves the door, unlike other races may have to do for, and I don't want to say other races, other cultures would have to do for their kids, right? And that was an emotional part for us because it's a hard thing to have to understand that, wow, this is something you have to do. And everyone on the call agreed, that's not, you shouldn't have to take an innocence away from a 6-year-old, right? And have a discussion with them. Let's figure this out. So it's the action piece is, okay, how can I get to the places and into those conversations and begin to affect legislation and laws that can stop this from being the case where, maybe I can't stop Cleeton from having to tell his son, but maybe his son won't have to have that discussion with his son, and then let me have another action piece is let me have discussions with my kids and let them know like, hey, you can be a part of the solution. You solving this for, what our core values is as a family, right? And part of you fulfilling those core values is, well, this is how you can be a part of the solution as you in age, So it's those things, it's really just, it's discussions, it's the petitions, right? There's several petitions out for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for all, there's, this list unfortunately is up to over 100 now of these brutal interactions with law enforcement. And it's raising awareness in that sense where you like, okay, well, you know what? It doesn't take much out of me to be a part of a petition that is looking to change that legislation or that law, right? It doesn't take much out of me to set up a live like this and have a discussion about it, right? Or call a meeting like you did yesterday. So it's just finding those things that that you can do. And we can't individually fix the whole world, but if a lot of people like yourself are doing these small actions, they're going to equal up to the big thing, and we start to see some change. So
that's cool. I have this visual in my head I can't get out ever since you said like we're all interlocked with arms because of COVID-19, and then now this happens, and so I think like now that we're in the action piece of all this, it's like, what are we going to do now that we're all interlocked arms? Like this is the chance for change. And I know like I've watched some videos where like they're worried that things are just going to go back to the way they were. And because it's easy, right? It's easy to fall back into what you know. And one of our core values as a company is embrace the uncomfortable. And it's really, and improve the human experience is our vision. And so it's really hard to ignore what's going on right now because it's like literally the core of what we are as a company. And so it's been weighing heavily on me this week on how do I make a difference? And because that's all that really we can do, right? Is focus on what we can do as individuals. And then one of the things I say a lot is being true to your purpose while becoming the best version of yourself. And I think, so as you're listing all these things that people can do to take action, I think, we all have, unique strengths and qualities, and we can be innovative and creative too. Just because these are the lists that people are saying doesn't mean there are other options there. You think about Uber, what they created, and these different companies that create innovation. Like, this is the time to really shine as what your unique thing is that you can bring. And how can we, because I know we have a lot of fear right now. We're fearful that, from our perspective, right? We're fearful we're going to say the wrong thing. We're fearful we're going to do the wrong thing. And, because there is that small percentage that does chastise people and say, oh, you said, and so, like, what happens when that happens is you restrict more, right? Because if I'm going to get beaten up about it, I'm not gonna do it then. So how can we break these walls down? How can we create safe places? You mentioned it a little bit yesterday in our meetings. Maybe you can expand on that. I don't know if you remember what you said or not, but how can we break these walls down to create safe places and get, like you said, get conversations going, get true understanding and love going? Because I know for me, like, that's what I need to feel. I need to feel safe, just like you need to feel safe, right? And that's when change happens, when we're all feeling safe and united, and then we can go forward.
Yeah. Well, I think the way I can talk about my experience, how I approach it. I'm from the understanding of we grow up and we create, these different relationships, or we come across these different relationships, and these relationships can in turn be, sources of advisement for us, right? So, you take the conversation, the thing you just mentioned, like, okay, let's say if I wanted to make a post about how I felt about something. Well, we all know that, if we're making something that can possibly be controversial, it's how you feel, but that it's a polarizing topic, then we all can tap into, once again, seeking to understand and seeking to be aware. We can tap into those relationships and say, hey, how do you feel about that? So I have a really good friend of mine. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing, but he he has committed his life to understanding the African American experience. He's a Caucasian male. He's here in Florida, and he fell in love with rap, hip hop, and because of his love for hip hop, he's like literally, he's listened to hours and hours of music, and he's heard the stories, and he's literally like taken up the call. Like, I want to understand and I want to educate individuals that look like me, and I want to educate anybody who want to listen, right? So what he does, people like myself and other individuals, before he goes and makes his post, before he goes and does anything, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about posting this. What are your thoughts on that? I know that, hey, you're Black, so you would know if it's offensive or anything like that, right? And I appreciate him for that. And I think that's kind of where it starts, is understanding that, although and that's where our discussion went, right? So discussion we had too, it's like, it's never a question of a intent of a heart, it being in the right place. It's just about how is the world ready to accept that? And if it isn't, how can I still say it to get the same conversation going? Yeah. And I think what we left out of there saying, we love people for people, right? I want to talk about all these topics, and if I lead with that, I won't have to worry about those individuals who are trying to reprimand you because you use one word. We've all been in, I use this as an example, we've all been in conversations and arguments with someone where you're talking about one thing, and then you said one word, and then that just becomes the whole argument.
Focus on,
yeah, right? So, and that's what happens when in the court of public opinion. And this is why it's important that we lean on our friends and family and individuals who can just give us some more of that insight, so that even if you post it, and even if you get you at least, you sought to understand before you did that. And now you're good within yourself. You can say, hey, listen, my intent was really to just share my heart on this. I talked to, XYZ about this. I thought this was fine. If you feel a certain way, I apologize, but that's not my intent, So when you've taken the time to do that, then, I think the overall message still gets heard, and I think so many times it's like, well, this is right, and it's because this is what I think is right, and that's right. You better take it. And it's when we get so polarized in that way, it makes it hard for that. So that's one aspect of it. And I think just honestly, the other thing is really just looking to just having the overall goal in mind, right? The overall goal is that we all want to improve our quality of life. So if, a lot of times if, I won't even get involved in a conversation if I realize that it's not going to lead to that, right? If I realize that this is just a polarizing topic, there's no solution there, right? So a lot of times if some of us just don't involve ourselves in certain things like that, then it kind of helps us out. In this case, with what just happened in the country with the protests, with the riots, we are having a understanding or coming together about human life. This whole situation started because there was someone showing that they didn't have an appreciation for the next human's life. And, all of us can agree across the board that that's not right, no matter what color, creed, or anything you are. And, I think if we stay focused on more of those topics and less of the other things like the polarizing things that, go on Twitter and whatever have you, I think we can make more change in the world. It's just what happens is that humanistic topic, we start focusing on that, and then something takes our attention. It's like not even important, but it's like polarizing. So it's like,
well, that makes you fearful. To be honest, like I went down too many rabbit holes this last week, and because I was trying, don't seek to understand through social media. I'm trying. I'm not saying don't for some reason, but like on some things, but like it was hard for me because it was like I didn't. And I had to recenter myself and be like, fear is not going to solve it. That's going to make it worse. And it's going to divide things more. So I had to reground. And that's why I think I needed that community gathering within our company more than anything, is because I think we're an example of what it's supposed to feel like, and the walls that are supposed to get broken down, and the vulnerability that's supposed to be there. And, tying it to business, like Tony Robbins says this, I say this, like, business is a spiritual game. Like we a lot of times, like in life and in business, we play up here in the fluff world, right? Where we don't ever get to any deep things, and we're all scared to get to any deep things. But when we get down to the raw side of things, like I think you had actually said this, Cleeton, yesterday, it's like we are more alike than we are different. I think you said something about values. Like you'll find that we do share a lot of the same values. Obviously, there's that 20%, 5%, whatever number it is, that the extremists, but
right.
I think if we really surveyed everybody, we really all do want the same things. So,
and that's where the protesting started from. The peaceful protesting started from the human. If we stay there, this is where we look. We want to be aware. We want to acknowledge, and we want to take action because of the human part. I don't want another fellow human to feel less than, to feel in danger, to be ostracized. I don't want that because of the human aspect of me, right? And that, because you're right. Same thing, when you get on social media, it's these forces pulling you left or right. It's like, you get ultra on this end, and you feel like you're justified. Yeah, let's loot and let's do all these other things. And, and then the other one is like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, right? Those things are the distraction pieces. But wait, we all started this because a human was treated less than a human. Right. So like I said, if we stay in that middle, that's where the love can solve it. Right. And I think, when we go look to understand, when we look to have these discussions, it brings it back to that. That's why it got emotional yesterday, because it's like, hey, wait, we're not too different. This is amazing. I want the same for my kids and my friends that you want for your kids and your friends. So but yeah, that's the overall thing. That's the overall thing. And understanding, one thing I'll say, I mentioned the looting and things like that. It's just some of the things we talked about yesterday with the trauma. You understand that, when a person isn't heard, then they lash out, and those things begin to happen because of the fact of not feeling heard. Right? What we do is when we seek to understand, we're like, okay, you it's almost like, I have nothing else to do. I might as well just tell them stuff because I'm just yelling and you're not listening. So, and and now you understand that, you say, okay, well, if we just fix the listening part, then this other part won't happen, right? So you start to see the solutions are a lot simpler than sometimes we make them. I think, we agreed that we don't have all the solutions yesterday, right? We talked about, oh, we could do this, we could do that. But as we continue to have these discussions, and look to solve the problem, we'll realize that the solution gets easier and easier. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, one thing that is important to me, I think, moving forward is not, looking to be consistent with trying to solve the problem. Because I think for me and a lot of individuals, it's been, from moments like what happened last week to the next one, right? And the next one happens, and for the next couple of days or next few weeks, we're like, okay, we got to change this, we got to fix it. But then you kind of get back into that tunnel vision, right? So to your point, like the locking arms thing, it's like, let's start to, as a people, let's start to schedule these things just to have discussions, even when nothing is going wrong, because it's keeping the conversation going. It's keeping our finger on it. Like, okay, well, we talked about this last month or last quarter. What about this? What about that? And you realize if you keep that finger on it, you start to see the problem goes away and you start to correct it. So
you had sent some things yesterday. I wrote down a couple of your notes, and I wanted to kind of bring that back up because it was pretty cool about like when the reason why, like I think on just like you talk about awareness and or I guess more acknowledgement. It's like for me, I've always thought like, we put an ad out on Indeed, anybody's welcome, or we do, it's we're not segregating or discriminating because anybody can come, like we're not doing that. So that's like, or I think a lot of us have come from, and then you made something that opened my eyes up a little bit more to that. And do you remember what you said? Because I'll let you say it if you do.
Yeah. It's it's the trauma of understanding the underlying systemic racism that a lot of us have experienced as African Americans. So because you've experienced it, you have things that you tell yourself that, hey, this is the majority. This is what everyone else is doing, right? So if you put an ad out for your company, immediately I'm like, well, man, I don't know if I'm going to get the same opportunity as this other individual, right? These are the certain things that you're telling yourself because you know that there are things in place that have been in places that you may experience personally. So, my parents raised me to understand, and, this is culturally what I had to receive and walk in. You have to be 3 steps, or 3 steps ahead of your counterparts just so that you can compete, right? These are things that we're being told in our culture, and these are things that are reality to us. So, understanding that, understanding that trauma will allow companies to start to say, you know what, I have to reach a little further to make sure that they understand that that's not us. Just assuming, to your point, it's like, I put it out. I'm not saying you can't come over here. This is great. We would love to have you. But, to them, it's like
the right place, right? Like,
right. But to an African American or a minority, it's like
the lost sheep didn't come and find the 99, right?
Exactly.
That analogy has been so good for me because it's like it ties it back to that Christian story. We got to go out and find that lost sheep. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, but that's your point. That's the point I'm making. It's like, understanding that is the case, and you have, and you talked about this yesterday, like not just doing it for numbers because you're not about that. And I think, a lot of organizations, they're not about the numbers as well. You have some that maybe are. Right. You always have people not doing it right.
I know, and that's why I think I got soured by it. Cause it's like I don't want to lose my genuine that genuineness that I have. So
yeah, and I can understand that. But now you understand, like, that since that trauma's there, I do have to do a little reaching over there to let them know, like, no, I'm talking to you specifically. You can come over here, and as going back to that conversation about pride and you not feeling like, or Black people not feeling like, oh, I don't want you to help me. It's like, no, I want you to let me know that this is for me, so I can get rid of that stigma
I hope that enough is for like businesses to open. I mean, I opened my eyes up, like meaning, I hope that just what you're saying right there is enough for us, all business owners, to realize like we can, let us go out and seek and find,
Yeah, I just seen a post from a really good mentor trainer. He's a business trainer. He just put it on LinkedIn. He's like, I'm looking for 3 African American business owners. I'm going to put you on my program at XYZ. And some people, you're always going to have 2 sides of it. Some people are like, I don't need your charity. Okay, fine. You don't need a charity. There's going to be individuals who didn't know that they could even apply to that. It's going to say, wow, you see me. And that's the key, is seeing us. Do you see me? I may not be verbalizing these fears. You got a chance to, because you asked me, I told you, right? But most people won't ask. So it's like, if companies are taking the time to see us, it goes so much for, I mean, literally, we come into your organization, the best employees. We're like, what do you need? What do you need? We got you. Cause it's like someone took the time to see us. And that's that part about not feeling heard so long and then finally being heard. It does so much to galvanize. So that's what I was explaining to the group yesterday. It's certain things in certain, whether it be organizations, whether it be companies, there are certain culturally, you just feel like I can't really get into that. I don't feel accepted, or I don't have the confidence to be the only one that looks like me there. Right. And I can't talk for my fellow brother, for how he or she was raised. Right. My parents prepared me to be, the only black person in organizations. And I'm okay with that, but some people aren't. So it's like understanding that, hey, I know that they have a lot of value to bring. So I'm going to invite a couple of them in there specifically. And I know my heart. I'm not trying to make numbers game. I understand that they have something to bring, and that diversity in my organization is.
But there's strength in numbers too. Meaning once they see that, like you said, once you see that there's other people, then they can, especially if it's a safe work environment where they know there's equal opportunity. Again, that's another word that kind of, there's certain words that have just been abused in the wrong way, but it really does. It allows for that, that safe environment where you can show like, look, no, like we look at what you bring, like your unique thing. I think I've said this yesterday. It's like, I don't want a bunch of me's. If I had a bunch of me's, then, we wouldn't be able to have the company that we have. I want diversity. I love different cultures too. I love learning about different cultures. And like I mentioned my Mexican friend, that I just love their culture. And so
especially the foods. Oh,
I know. It's really
Let's be honest, the food. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
No, it's great.
So good.
So before we close, like, get raw with me. What is it that maybe what can we do better? What's maybe something we're doing okay with at the center? Like, what do you feel like we can do for us as a center, as an example for next steps?
Well, I think continuing that human experience conversation, starting to niche down a little bit onto, like I talked about, like the different cultures that fall into that human experience. So let me talk specifically to African Americans. Let's talk specifically to Asian Americans, and so on and so forth, about, because there's certain things that they experience in business, right, that we can talk to and help them out with, right? So having more of that in our marketing, more of that in just our approach to how we provide them with products and services. Stuff like this, right? We have this amazing platform where you're able to share your heart as a business owner, as a thought leader. Continuing this conversation, you showed your passion for inclusion and diversity. So this is a part of that passion. It's like, okay, because we talked about so many other things about inclusion and diversity that you haven't even gotten into, right? So I think introducing those topics into the discussion is going to be amazing. But then also having this real conversation about the race part of it, and being okay to say, I don't see color as a requirement for you to be superior or inferior, but I do see color as a diversity piece of something different culturally you can bring. So let's keep, let's talk to, let's continue to have this discussion about how can we be a part of the solution.
I like just saying that up front too. Like, as far as like, if I had that conversation up front with you, I mean, I had, like I mentioned, I had an exit interview with a gay guy that had left,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an amazing conversation. It's like, we should have had that day one. Like, why are we having this on the exit interview? I mean, we left on very good terms, but it was, it just made me realize, like, the sooner you can break those walls down and just let them know, like, we got your back, you got a safe place. We're here for each other, together.
Yeah.
We all have trauma. We all have things we're working through. We're all human, and
so. Yeah. And I think the fact that you had this recording, and this is going to be on social media, and then it's behind the scenes already, right? At the center. When you have those outlandish things, they don't mean anything. They don't match the target audience we're going after. So you continue to just be direct, like you're saying. You can say, "Hey, I'm going to talk about this," and you're going to have some people, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" Okay, go check track record. Okay, this is something we're passionate about, and we love this. So if you can't get with that, that's okay. But we're genuine here, and we're really wanting to be a part of the solution. So yeah, I think just leaning in on that more. The controversy would be there, but now the heart is being recorded. It's in recording now. It's like, no, this is where I am with it. Yeah. You don't have to.
See that, and they can see your heart, and they can see, what you're about. You're pretty level-headed. I really respect you and your insight, and
thank you.
Really appreciate you for that. And you're in a really good position in the company to be able to have some impact on how we do this too.
Yeah, and I appreciate you for that. And I think I'm so excited for the things to come. How we work together and just continue to like I said, just bring awareness to this and man, just in fact, like I said, I'm big. When I first heard your vision about the human experience, I think it resonated with me really well because as a believer, that's something that my personal goal is to make life better, right? So it just completely aligns with that. And, I didn't say any particular life, it's just lives because we're humans, right? We're one race. And so I think, I'm just excited for what we can do just as we lean in on that, right? Particularly for my people, I'm excited to be able to represent us and be a voice as much as I can. But it's so rewarding to have a owner of the company I work for and the company itself be behind that thought that we want to improve Black lives, we want to improve all lives. We want to just improve the human experience. I think if we keep it there, man, it's going to be great, and we can affect other companies. And that's the key. We're in a position where we help other companies. So, as we get into their core value and their mission, right? It's like, listen, this is a very important thing because you have happy employees, you have amazing work, right? So if you're talking about these things and behind the scenes and you're putting products and service out that have that at the heart of them, like, come on, we can.
Yeah, if we're attracting the right employees, the right companies that we work with, like that get behind what our vision is, and then their visions complement what we do too, then that's how I feel like it can really make a difference. And I've always believed, I didn't know how, I just believed it, that entrepreneurship is the way to change the world. And I feel like if we can be that example, and I'm grateful for you, Cleeton, to be in my arm locked with me because I don't know because if we can be that example, and then we can then influence other people, and then it ripples, right? And being virtual, like, I know I tell all the time why virtual is so cool, but like, this is just another reason why being virtual is amazing. Because if Boise, Idaho is not very diverse. Like, I actually saw a stat, like it's 0.00001% blacks, wow. It's very low. And I grew up, like I said, in California, where I was more of a minority. So I moved here. There was not one Black person in my school. And then then I remember, like, a year later, there was one. And I'm like, could you imagine what that guy probably was feeling? And we actually have a very tight-knit community here. Like we actually have a lot of refugees, so there is diversity. It's just not a lot of Blacks, and it's not as diverse as like Houston or different,
but it's getting there, right?
Chicago but I was thinking, like, because we're virtual, like we do have a lot of, you are the only Black on our team, but we have a lot of other races on our team as well, and so I love the idea of continuing to grow that diversity, and it's great because we're virtual. We can do that.
Be all over the country, all over the world, right? We can.
There's no limit to what we can do. But if in Boise, if I was only in Boise, I would be very limited. We would be predominantly white just because it's hard. We're physical presence. I mean, we'd have to physically move people here to be a diverse.
Right.
And so, like, that another reason to stay virtual, companies.
Yes.
Because look at with the COVID-19, it forced people virtual. Now, okay, we can embrace so many more areas of the country than could ever be before. I mean, look at Facebook and the people that are in San Francisco. They were limited to only people in San Francisco, people they moved in, and so it really made their. I mean, I think Mark, not get too political, like Mark Zuckerberg is getting backlash on things, right? And whether you agree or not, like regardless, like it's not a very diverse group of thinking. Where we at the center, we have different political backgrounds, religious backgrounds. Like we are proof that you can have all of that be different, but you're united in love. You're united in improving the human experience. And that is what companies need to be united on. And then if we can unite on that, then the rest falls away. Like,
that's awesome. You just drove a point that you almost have to be virtual to really take on this task.
I know, right? Like I have this.
It's like, how can you not do it? Yeah. Like you said, unless you're in one of those cities that's already majorly diverse.
Blog to write.
yeah. I think you're onto something there. I love it. Cool.
Cool. This is awesome. Let's continue these. Obviously, you're a big part of the marketing team, so like, let me know. Let's keep this rolling. I don't want to just sweep this under the rug and then pretend like, oh, we're back to the way things were. Like, I think given our vision of simplifying the human experience, it through our values, like now that part of the vision statements rings even more true, because our values are do the right thing, embrace the uncomfortable, get it done, and build people up. Like those are pretty applicable to what we're going through right now. So I think 100%. We have a unique opportunity to be a light and a way for other companies with this, and really hopefully be I don't know, just break down those walls and that fear that, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And so we do this dance, right? And we don't want to offend the other one because we really do care. I think the majority of people care. We want the same things. We're playing up here. Like, let's get down. Let's play the spiritual game in business.
Yeah. Break down those barriers and show the love. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited. We started all emotional. It was good. We got it out. Like now, let's do this. I'm excited. Like you said, let's put energy and optimism behind it and excitement. Because if we're in fear, you can't get anything done with fear. So that's why I had to do that meeting with all of you guys yesterday. Because I'm like, I gotta get this fear out of me because I just know I don't do well in the fear zone. Like I gotta.
Most of us don't.
Yeah. So cool. All right, I'm excited. Any last thoughts for everybody listening?
I appreciate everyone who stayed on the live. Sorry, working at home comes with its challenges. Lawn care.
Lawn care. Oh, I love it. The kid was knocking on my door earlier. Like that's why I love this. So like the last live I did with you was like, no, have your kids in the background. Like that's just.
Oh yeah. Listen, COVID has just broken down all those barriers for sure, because it's like you got it all going on, and I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing it. But I just appreciate the conversation. Thank you, Mia, for doing this once again. If I had to say one last thing, is just seek to understand. As long as we seek to understand, our friends and our family, we get a chance to be a part of the solution as long as we seek to understand, and like I said, I'm so excited for what we can further do with this, these discussions, and It's good. It's great discussion. This was awesome.
No, it's good. All right, I'm leaving you the last word. So thanks, everyone, and stay tuned for next ones. We're going to keep this going. So, all right.
All right.
Thanks, Cleeton.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.